Okay. Hola, Marcelo, and thank you for joining us today and for being part of the ICAC's Cotton Connects videos. The main idea of these videos is to interview leaders in the cotton and textile value chain and to learn how COVID-19 is affecting their industry. So we all know that Brazil is an important player in the cotton industry. Brazil is one of the world's leading producers and exporters of cotton. And the country is well known because of the use of technology and the development of varieties that have enabled higher cotton yields in the Cerrado region. So welcome again.
Hola, Lorena. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for...
Pleasure to be here.
So could you please tell us how is COVID-19 impacting the cotton industry in Brazil?
Of course. When you talk about production, I mean, we are in the middle of our cropping season, so that of course didn't impact much. Brazil cotton is mainly planted from late November to January, and that's really our main plantings. And the harvest happens around June, from June to August mainly. So what we were saying is that when COVID hit Brazil, say in March, when it the crop was already there, and luckily our farmers were able to take care of the spraying, fertilization. So the crop is looking pretty good, and so we'll be having harvesting a good crop this year, even though we are in the middle of this pandemics. Of course, when it comes to consumption, I mean, you look at the Brazilian industry, they're having trouble, of course, because other stores are closed, the malls are closed, and even though in some places, some parts of the country, they're allowed to run their mills, but they can't. They don't. There's no point running a mill if the outlet's not selling, if the e-commerce is not really didn't really supply the closure of the stores. So even though e-commerce grew a lot, but it was representing very little in the total sales of the sector. So we're seeing now farmers that were delivering to local mills, they're experiencing some delays, some postponements because of this huge crisis we're facing.
Okay, so one of the things that we know is that cotton prices have declined since January, from 15%, I would say. And travel restriction, as you mentioned, is in several countries, cotton-consuming countries like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, is having a huge impact on cotton supply and demand. We heard of the massive cancellation and postponement of orders due to the pandemic. How is this impacting cotton farmers in Brazil and their contracts?
Well, in Brazil, the cotton farmers, they have a very unique, and I would say very smart way of marketing their production. They don't harvest and then market. They do a lot of pre-marketing even before their planting begins. So for this crop, we are about to start harvesting, for example, 70% has already been marketed. So farmers they only have about 30% of their expected crop to market. And of course, you ask me, well, that's going to be, there might be cancellations. Well, we are not seeing that yet. So the old crop, the crop we harvested last year, we are finalizing the shipments, and the shipments have been going all right. So we're having the largest the export season ever in Brazil. So we're finishing. So in the beginning we had some months that we exported more than 300,000 tons in 1 month, and this year we'll be finishing. So this marketing year. At around 1.8 million tons exported, which is a very high number historically very high. So this for last crop, old crop, fine. For the new crop, the contracts are there, and we have to say that we trust a lot on the merchants that are doing this. So farmers. So farmers, they don't sell directly to the mills, so they sell to merchants, and a lot of the merchants, they don't sell the physical beans, the physical cotton. What they do is they hedge in New York, or they have other types of price protection. So in a sense that what they're mostly telling the farmers now is that we know there is a problem downstream. We know there is an issue. There's a huge issue happening, but we are merchants, and that's what we do. And so we're going to take care of this. We're going to take care. So you guys are farmers. You do what you do best.
No.
Grow good cotton for us, and we organize that in a way that you won't suffer. So that's how we are right now.
Excellent. Does ABRAPA anticipate any impacts on the production efficiency and the costs related during the current season and the recovery phase?
Yeah, of course. We had some when this huge economic turmoil happened. Of course, we had some the exchange rate in Brazil appreciated a lot. In a way that made our costs much higher than they were, because 70% of our production costs are in US dollars. But on the other hand, our revenues are also locked in US dollars. So there was some sort of compensation. So what farmers are trying to understand right now is whether the credit market's going to suffer or not. So far, we are not seeing a lot of just only noise that there might be less credit for the farmers, but the point is that farmers are still being able to raise enough money for their production. And of course, they're not making any investment this year, so investments are going way down. So in a way that all the money they need is money for working capital and running their business.
Thank you. Is the government providing any help to the agricultural sector, and what are cotton farmers requesting to the government to help them in this crisis?
Yeah, the government is really so far is really trying. The government is trying to help the unemployed. It's trying to help the people that are in very, very bad situation because of this lockdown. So we have to be clear. I mean, farmers, of course, they have a huge demand. They had huge needs, but so far, the government is clearly more focused on keeping the economy running, because we know the economic costs, the human costs are going to be huge. So they are huge so far. So so if you look locally or globally, we are into recession. We're losing thousands and thousands of lives in Brazil and overseas, and that's what the government is focusing right now. If we could ask something, of course, we would ask government for more credit, especially to help farmers to hold their inventories for longer, because even though we have 70% of our crop marketed, we know it's going to be a huge crop again, almost more than 2.8 million tons that will need to be delivered along the full marketing year. So that's going to demand working capital for cash flow capital for farmers to be able to hold the inventories throughout the marketing year.
Marcelo, Brazil is well known because it's the largest producer of sustainable cotton. And with the current crisis, what are the main impacts for the responsible Brazilian cotton program?
Well, farmers take it for granted. I mean, more than 80% of our production is sustainable. And that's something that farmers, they don't even consider moving back, because even though they don't see market premiums in the market for sustainable cotton. I mean, at least premiums that would justify investments. But that's something they took for granted. They took as a strategy. They took as a way of continuing in the business. So we are seeing that just increasing even more. So now ABRAPA is implementing our certification at the gene level as well. So we're not at the farm level; we are moving to the gene level, and next we even want to move to the export terminal level as well, because we want to have the whole local supply chain, export supply chain certified using the best practices of labor practices, the best environmental practices that we could have. And I think that's really something that could be changed after COVID. You know, I mean, consumers might not want as much, but they might want what's best. So what's best, what's more sustainable, and that's really where cotton lies. I mean, cotton is natural. Cotton is the best fiber. And we have to, and that's something we need as a whole supply chain. We need to promote, because in that sense we're going to be saving lots and lots, millions and millions of jobs worldwide, promoting this natural fiber that helps so many families, so many people all over the world.
Thank you.
And protect the environment.
Yeah, protecting the environment is the best. I'm thinking about the future a little bit. We all know that farmers are very responsive to prices, and prices are expected to remain under pressure because of the lower demand and the increase in netting stocks. Is there any recommendation coming from ABRAPA to lower the cotton area in Brazil for the next season? How is it for farmers to shift to another crop, and what other alternatives do farmers have?
Well, that's this pandemic times are being very rich in terms of discussion. So we suddenly discovered that we could be close being far, and using this technology to talk. And so we've been doing a lot of webinars, talking a lot, and farmers are definitely concerned about what's happening around the world. I mean, not only prices, but you know, the economic perspectives, and also the geopolitics involving all of that. You know, how the trade war is going to be after the pandemic. So there are a lot of questions, and how oil prices are going to behave after that. Is that going to affect the price of polyester, and will people go for the cheaper or the best or the most sustainable? So we are all asking ourselves the same question: how long that's going to last? I mean, how long are we going to be locked down for? How many weeks? And what's the USDA report going to be next week? And so I mean, so this big discussion right now. So farmers, they basically are taking their decision right now, but they have until their planting deadline, which is January, to change their mind. So there are a lot of things that happen. Well, one key point is that, as I said previously, farmers, they tend to market their crop before they plant. So if they find market, if they can market, if there's some liquidity in the market for future sales, and if the current sales are performing well, I mean, if we know that the situation is not simple, but if we see that we can trust on the contracts we made, and we can make newer contracts, farmers will remain planting, and we will remain planting maybe areas that will continue to be significant. It could be less. I think looks like it's going to be less than we planted last year. But how much less, it's really going to depend on how the entire situation is going to be. So it's really, and the key point is whether the market they'll be able to lock prices in advance. If they are able to lock prices, and the prices they locked for the previous season, they are performed, and they'll be happy to be, because it cost the Brazilian farmers a lot to be in this position, as you said, to be the second largest exporter. And they love growing cotton, they love producing, they love marketing their cotton overseas, they love being in such a fantastic supply chain. And they will only not do it if they don't make money, because otherwise they have other options. They could grow beans, they could grow corn. So there are other options that farmers have, and we are aware that in the food business, the impacts have been lower than they are in the textile markets.
Are you guys talking about or do you see any opportunities for the cotton industry in Brazil right now? Are you planning some strategies for the future?
Of course, yes. One of the we locally, what ABRAPA is trying to improve its certification, improve its quality program. So the quality program is very strong, and we're trying to improve the program. And hopefully, pretty soon, we're going to have a database with all the HVI data for our suppliers to check, and very reliable information for them to count on for doing their mixes and their mills. So we want to improve that. We want to improve it because we believe traceability, quality, and sustainability are the 3 points that we are going to be focusing a lot. And with these 3 points in place and 3 points scaling up, we want to be closer to our consumers. We want to be closer to our mills. We want to be closer to the buyers of Brazilian cotton. So that's why, for this reason, we are opening an office in Singapore and I'll be there myself from, I don't know where that's going to happen because of COVID, but hopefully as soon as possible, I'll be visiting mills, I'll be visiting trading associations in a way that to bring together, to bring the users of Brazilian cotton, the ones that use a lot, the ones that don't use a lot yet, closer to the Brazilian farmers, in a way that we can build more trust, we can build more relationship, because we believe the market is based on, marketing is a lot about having a good product, of course, but having it delivered on time, having it at a good price, but also, and maybe more importantly, relationship. So I think ABRAPA is putting a foot or 2 feet in Asia. Definitely is going to be one of a milestone for Brazil that only recently started to be an exporter in this area.
Excellent. I don't know if you want to add something else. This is all the questions that I have for you today.
I just want to say that we are all in the same supply chain, and we are. It's really good to have ICAC doing this series of interviews that we are able to see the people's faces, to feel what the difficult times everybody's facing. It's not being easy for us here as well, even though we are in the very end of the supply chain. But we know we are on the same boat, and we're going to be moving to a better sea, to a calmer sea, hopefully, and with better economic outlook, and with your help, with ICAC help, Lorena, understanding the scenario earlier than everybody else, in a way that we can take wiser decisions and have the best crop we can have in the right quantity to supply the world with the best and with what they need in terms of fiber, and quality fiber, and sustainable fiber.
Well, Marcelo, thank you very much for your time, and I wish you and the cotton family in Brazil all the best. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias. It's a big pleasure talking to you, Lorena.